Hey, it's me, Raika. Today we're going to have a look at in-game campaign pushing teams. In the previous video, we covered Lucretia and Thorin Cheese. Today we'll cover the Alna and Grezhul based team. So, this team is made up of three heroes, being Grezhul, Alna, and Odin. Now, the main damage dealers will be either Grezhul or Odin. So, how does this team work? Basically, you always have Alna and Grezhul on the front row. Alna over here will provide the immunity needed for Grezhul, and Grezhul will provide the distraction through his minions, and he'll provide the damage through his minions as well. And Odin over here, his main role is damage at lower deficits. However, at much higher level deficits, his primary role is to teleport the enemies on top of Grezhul over here. Now, by doing so, Grezhul will be able to stun the enemies using his ultimate, and this will create two minions. Now, these two minions are common-based minions, so these minions over here. And these minions will be able to use their ultimate skill, such as this one over here. They will be able to knock the enemies over and deal damage to them. And they will be able to use their normal abilities called the sweeping swing. So what makes these minions special? These minions will gain every single point of stats that Grezhul has. So when Grezhul has only one minion, he won't deal a significant amount of damage. So because Alna is in that team and providing that immunity for Grezhul, this allows Grezhul to build up his minions over time. So eventually he will have an army of minions ranging into 10 or even 20 of these minions, and they'll benefit from Grezhul's stats. Now, Grezhul has another very important stat, and that is being able to steal the enemy's stats. Now, this is from this ability over here called Demonic Assault, where he steals a bit of the enemy's stats and keeps on growing stronger and stronger over time. Now, because he's able to steal the stats and his minions benefit from all of Grezhul's stats, over time, most of the damage will be coming from Grezhul's minions. And when you essentially have 20 minions, you'll essentially have 20 Grezhuls fighting an enemy at the same time. This is a significant amount of damage, especially over a longer duration, and you have the necessary damage and control from either Grezhul or Odin himself. Now, in this team, you can see that there are two extra empty slots. So what heroes do we put in these specific slots? Now, usually you either want another support to boost up Grezhul's damage even further. So this can be in the form of having a Mortis over here. This will give Grezhul and all of his minions an extra 40% increased attack power and life leech. Or we could have another hero such as Silas, who essentially keeps Grezhul and all of his allies at full health because of Silas's immunity and permanent healing. And we could also have another hero, either Pharrell, who can provide more control if, for example, there is an enemy hero who needs to be locked down as soon as the battle begins, as Odin can usually only lock down one enemy at a time using his ultimate by removing the enemy's energy or by teleporting them and stacking them on top of Grezhul. So usually this team has a wide variety of teammates that they can be added into the third and fifth slot over here. However, it's usually a support being Desira, Silas, Mortis, or Pharrell. So how does he work in campaign? So as I mentioned before, usually you will have Grezhul and Alna in the front row tanking all of the damage. And then you have a hero such as Odin over here who group up enemies. Now at much lower deficits, Odin will deal the most amount of damage. However, as you get into the 200 and above level deficit range, Grezhul will be able to steal more stats and he'll be able to buff up his minions even further, allowing him to deal the most amount of damage. So let's have a look at this specific battle over here. Now, as we can see, Odin immediately teleported one of the enemies, and he's starting to stack these enemies on top of Grezhul. Now, Grezhul can survive the initial hits because of Alna's immunity. Now, this immunity usually lasts for 16 seconds. However, if you have a hero such as Silas, this immunity can be extended even further. And we have another support over here being Mortis, who can constantly provide buffs such as his life leech and his 40% increased attack rating. Now, this stacks extremely well on heroes such as Grezhul and his minions. So as we can see, Odin has easily been able to stack all the minions on this team over here. Now, what teams does this not do so well against? Now, against teammates that have very heavy invade or burst teams. So if you're, for example, fighting tanks that essentially remain in one position for the entire duration of the battle, this might not necessarily be a very good team to go up against. Or a teammate who essentially can one-shot Alna before she's had a chance to use her immunity shield on Grezhul. Now, there's also other teams. So as we can see here, there are tanks over here. And because of Grezhul's stacking nature, he can easily overpower these tank or stall heroes and this healer over here. Now, against other teams such as Burst, such as this team over here, who can essentially one-shot your entire back row, the Alna and Grezhul team will not be as effective in this specific team, as the Gwyneth over here will one-shot your backline allies, and this will essentially not allow Grezhul to stall and last for the entire duration of the battle. So, the three heroes that I would highly recommend that you invest in is the Alna, Grezhul, and the Odin. The other two heroes are dependent on what enemies you are fighting and what are the best heroes that you need in order to defeat the enemies extremely effectively. Now, this team works extremely well at low and high deficits and essentially is an all-rounded team that works extremely well at anything that they come into contact with.